Best friend tried stealing my girl behind my back, but I found love and justice in the end. You won't believe what happened when I caught my best friend kissing the girl I thought was mine, and the fallout that nearly destroyed everything. This isn't just a story about betrayal, it's about what comes after, and trust me, it gets way deeper than you expect. I stepped into my favorite country bar in Oak Ridge, found a small table tucked away in the back, and ordered a burger, fries, and a cold beer. I settled in and flipped on the TV. It was tuned to a PBS channel where they were talking about classic country music, reminiscing about those old legends. Most of them had already passed on, but a few were still around. The whole vibe was kind of somber, like a quiet tribute to their stories and struggles. Honestly, I'd never realized just how many of those stars came from nothing, dirt-poor backgrounds, barely scraping by. As I was digging into my meal, I glanced up and saw my closest friend Jake walking in with Mia. That hit me like a punch. You see, I thought Mia was my girlfriend. I'd asked her out for the night, but she'd told me she'd already made plans with friends and suggested we hang out tomorrow instead. Mia and I had been seeing each other steadily for about 6 months. I thought we were official. We practically spent every weekend together. I was falling hard for her, and she said she felt the same. We even talked about maybe getting engaged someday, but agreed to take it slow. Then the TV show ended, and someone hit the jukebox. They played Crazy. I tuned into the lyrics. It's that part where the singer says, "I knew you'd love me as long as you wanted, then someday you'd leave me for somebody new." That line hit me right in the gut. Was Jake the new somebody? The worst part was, Jake knew exactly how I felt about Mia. I guess our so-called guy code didn't mean much to him. I kept listening as the song went on, the line about being crazy for thinking my love could hold her, crazy for trying, crazy for crying, and crazy for loving her. I stood up, walked straight over to Jake and Mia. They looked at me like I was some kind of problem. Jake sneered, "Charlie, shut your mouth. If we cross paths again, one of us is going to end up in the hospital." And Mia? I looked her dead in the eye. "I'm seriously let down. This is over. You've shown me who you really are." I walked out of that bar that night feeling shattered. The next day, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. It was Mia, desperate to talk. But I wasn't ready. Later, Jake called. I picked up, trying to keep my cool. "What do you want, Jake?" "I'm sorry, man. You know I've always thought Mia was amazing. We were talking at work, and I asked her out. She said yes." "Don't lie to me. You knew she was mine, and you asked her out anyway. How many times have you two been together?" "Just 3, Jake admitted. "We kinda started feeling something for each other." I shook my head. "What about Alice? Does she know you deceived her?" "She deserves better than this." Jake was Alice's boyfriend. The 3 of us, me, Jake, and Alice, all worked at the same factory. We'd met through some crazy coincidence. I ended the call cold. "I never want to see you again. And as for Mia, you two can have each other." Then my phone rang again. This time, it was Mia. I figured it was time to face the music, so I picked up the phone. "Hey, Mia, what's going on?" She sounded hesitant. "Charlie, I want to apologize. Jake asked me out a bunch of times, and I finally agreed to go out with him once." "It didn't mean anything." I cut her off. "Save it. I talked to Jake, and he said you two were together at least 3 times. She sighed. "Maybe even more." "Was it about the money?" I snapped. "Good luck with that. You two money-hungry types deserve each other. I want nothing to do with either of you. The only person I feel sorry for is Alice. She thought you and Jake were her friends. Stay out of my life and stop calling." I grew up in Kentucky, one of 8 kids. I was the oldest and played football in high school. As a senior, I earned a scholarship to a college in Ohio. I was 6 feet 3 inches and weighed around 260 pounds, an offensive lineman through and through. My folks couldn't afford college, so that scholarship was a lifeline. I wanted to study mechanical engineering because I liked working with my hands. I was a bit shy growing up but had a soft spot for women. With all those sisters around, I learned to treat women right. My mom always said, "Treat girls like you'd want your own sisters to be treated." During college, I made friends with a guy named Jake. He was friendly but not much of an athlete. Smart guy, though, and he talked about some family money. Said he didn't have much now but might get an inheritance someday. He was studying business management, and when football wasn't taking all my time, we'd hang out. Jake had a way with the ladies. We hit a lot of parties, and women were never in short supply. I was the quiet one, but surprisingly, a good number of girls showed interest in me. I have to give Jake credit for that. My shyness might have held me back otherwise. After graduation, I stayed in Ohio and landed a mechanical engineering job at Ford. The pay was decent, and I rented a small apartment near the plant. I even got myself a late model pickup truck. Every week, I set aside some cash and sent my parents $500 to help out. My dad was a coal miner, and family meant everything to me. Jake got a job at a warehouse in the same city. It turned out he worked for one of our suppliers. Eventually, he became the warehouse manager. On weekends, we'd hang out, and he told me about his girlfriend at work, Alice. She was in charge of inventory control. Jake introduced me to Alice, and honestly, I could have fallen for her right then and there. But Jake and I had a strict bros before girls pact. Tough call, but I stuck to the code. I dated a couple of women from my plant, but just as friends. I never went on double dates with Jake because being around Alice stirred up feelings in me. She was always sweet to me. One day, Jake invited me to their plant's Christmas party since they were one of our suppliers. I figured, why not? At the party, I met a stunning woman named Olivia. She had curves and a figure to die for. Olivia dressed a bit more provocatively than Alice and was definitely a flirt. She told me she worked with Jake and Alice, holding down a secretary job for one of the higher-ups. I told Olivia about my job, and we spent the whole night dancing. We decided to hang out again and even went out with Jake and Alice for New Year's Eve. Alice said some nice things about me finding someone, but her sincerity was questionable. That night, I took Olivia back to my place. Let's just say she was impressive. The next morning, Olivia sounded surprised I lived in a modest apartment. I explained that my job was new and I didn't need much yet, especially since I was sending money back home. She brought up Jake's family being wealthy and asked if it was true since he was my best friend. I confirmed it and said they covered his education costs. Our dating went strong. We hit the town almost every weekend. My feelings were growing and she matched them. We did all kinds of things together, and yeah, the bedroom stuff was a definite highlight. But her flirtatious attitude and constant talk about material things bothered me. I tried to reassure her we could build a good life together. Still, when we went on double dates with Jake and Alice, something felt off. There was a tension I couldn't explain. Update 1. Olivia and I had been together about 6 months. We talked about our future, maybe even getting engaged eventually. She said there was no rush. We went to a county fair, and I got Olivia a friendship ring at a cheap jewelry stand. I told her it meant she was mine until she felt ready for the next step. She smiled when she slipped it on. By the way, I hit the gym 3 days a week after work and had dropped to 230 pounds. Felt pretty good about myself. But then came that night at the country bar in Oak Ridge. Seeing my girl and best friend locked in a kiss crushed me. After that and the phone call, I cut all ties with both of them. Even though I was furious, I felt sorry for Alice. 2 weeks passed, and my phone rang. Charlie, I'm so sorry about you and Olivia. I thought she might have messed up, but never with Jake. What's going on? Alice went on. I saw her having lunch with her boss, Brad. It looked like a regular thing. I wanted to tell you, but didn't want to hurt you in case I was wrong. Then I heard about Olivia and Jake. When I found out, I walked out immediately. I cut ties with both of them. It's hard seeing them at work, but I keep busy. I told her, thanks for reaching out. I was worried about you. You're one of my closest friends. Maybe we can catch up soon. I'd be up for that, Charlie, Alice said. Good to talk after everything. Honestly, I wasn't sure if I felt better or worse. A couple of weeks went by, and one evening at the grocery store, I bumped into her. Hey, Charlie, nice to see you. How's everything? Pretty good. You back in the dating game? I asked. She smiled. I've turned down quite a few dates. Got my eye on someone special. Don't want to mess it up if he calls. Oh, sorry. I was actually going to ask you out. Really? I'd love that. You're the one I was hoping would ask. So, when and where? I was thinking Saturday, my favorite country bar and grill. I need to know how to dress. We said our goodbyes, and I promised to pick her up at 6. When I got to her place, Alice was rocking a classic Western look. Jeans, vest, cowgirl hat, boots. She looked amazing. I opened the truck door, and she slid right in. Saturday nights at that bar always had a country band and singer. We grabbed a booth and ordered a couple of beers. The band wasn't starting for another hour, so we had time to catch up. I was surprised to learn she was from Kentucky, just a county over from where I grew up. She went to college there, then landed a job at the supply plant in Ohio. We placed our orders. I went for a double bacon cheeseburger with fries. She picked a Reuben sandwich, and we shared the fries. It felt good to reconnect. She asked if this was the same bar where I caught Jake and Mia together. I nodded but told her I wasn't going to let a couple of deceivers ruin my favorite spot. She just smiled. When the band started, we hit the dance floor. They kicked off with 2 slow songs to get couples moving. Their playlist was packed with classic hits, exactly what the crowd wanted. Then they switched to something faster, and we sat out. I told Alice I wasn't much for fast dances, but loved watching the women move. They played some Roy Orbison, one of my favorites. Then a few songs by Let It Lie. Alice and I danced through the slow songs. Then the announcer called the ladies up for line dancing. A few guys joined in. Why not give line dancing a shot? I teased. She grinned. You just want to check out my big moves, winking as she joined the group. The line dance started, and I couldn't take my eyes off her. She caught my gaze and gave a little booty shake. I laughed and clapped. After the song, she came over smiling. I leaned in to kiss her. Pulling back, I said, "Sorry." "Not sorry," she replied, kissing me again. We had a blast dancing and sipping beers. Time flew. They announced the last song, and I held her close, swaying. When it ended, I kissed her again. I dropped Alice off and asked if she wanted to go out again next Saturday. "I'd love that," she said. I suggested Cedar Point, the big amusement park in Ohio. She was thrilled. We kissed goodnight, and I didn't want to rush anything on our first date. I felt great at work all week. On Friday, I called Alice to confirm our plans. She said she'd heard of Cedar Point, but never been. Saturday morning, I picked her up, and we headed to the park. During the drive, I asked if she'd told Jake or Mia we were dating. "No, not a word," she said. We had an amazing day riding roller coasters and trying all the rides. The park had shows, too, which we caught on our way out. We stopped for dinner at Texas Roadhouse. By the time we got home, we were wiped out. Alice shared her place with Joan, a friendly woman likely in her 50s who worked retail. Alice loved having Joan around. They were close like family. I told Alice I'd be out of town the next weekend, but wanted to see her when I got back. "Call me when you're back," she said. After a kiss, I told her I really cared for her. She smiled and said she'd always liked me, too. Once home, I didn't waste time and called her to invite her to a big dinner my boss was hosting. An anniversary party for him and his wife at the Hilton. I'd booked a hotel room because I expected some drinking. I told Alice I understood if she didn't want to come. Her response was all positive. "Charlie, I'd be thrilled to go. We won't need 2 beds, you know. I want you to know I'm falling for you. Just promise me you'll be honest and not lead me on. I'd never hurt you, and I'll make sure no one else does either," I said. I asked if we could use her car. I didn't want to show up at a fancy event in my truck. "Definitely. And I'll tell Joan I won't be home." I parked my truck at her place, and we took her car. We got there early, planning to get ready at the hotel. During the ride, Alice said she was thinking about finding a new job because seeing Jake and Mia at work made her uncomfortable. She even mentioned a rumor that Mia might be pregnant. At the party, I got dressed in a tuxedo in the hotel bathroom. When I came out, Alice looked stunning in a form-fitting blue dress that showed off her figure. Her hair flowed to her shoulders, elegant yet sexy. "You look incredible. I might not even care about the party now," I said. She teased. "Oh no, you don't. I didn't go through all this just to change again." We smiled and headed downstairs. My boss and his wife greeted us warmly, introducing themselves and welcoming us to the party as they moved on. I noticed Jake sneaking glances at Alice throughout the party. Since I knew a lot of folks there, I introduced Alice around to the people I was familiar with. She got plenty of compliments. We grabbed some drinks and settled at a table. The event had a great spread of appetizers, with dinner planned later. Alice recognized a few women she worked with regularly. Her role in inventory control kept her in touch with them. I spotted Mary, the head of human resources, and struck up a conversation. "Mary, are there any openings in inventory control or the supply chain?" She smiled. "Actually, yes. Janice is retiring next month, and I need to find her replacement. Do you have anyone in mind?" I nodded toward Alice. "This is Alice. She's looking for a new job opportunity. She currently handles inventory control. She enjoys it, but wants a change." Mary said, "Tell her to come see me Monday, and I'll set up an interview." "She's a striking woman. Thanks so much, Mary. I really appreciate it." Mary chuckled. "I'm sure you do." The party turned out to be a blast. I danced with a few employees' wives while Alice danced with their husbands. Most of the time, though, we danced together. Dinner was amazing. Roast beef, chicken, shrimp, and all the sides. After a few more drinks, we said goodnight to the hosts and headed to our hotel room. "Alice, are you absolutely sure about this?" I asked nervously. "Charlie, stop overthinking and just be with me," she said. helping me slip out of my tuxedo and herself out of her dress. We hung them carefully, pulled back the covers, and, well, you know. I turned off the lights, we cuddled close, and drifted off. The last words I heard before sleep were, "I love you, Charlie." Morning came with the smell of fresh coffee. Alice had showered, gotten dressed, and even brewed us each a cup. "Morning, Charlie. Sleep well? It's been a while." "Yeah, I did," I replied. After breakfast with some friendly coworkers, I mentioned to Alice, "Looks like we've become a known couple. Mary stopped by and told you see you Monday, didn't she?" Alice's eyes widened. "What? You forgot to tell me I have an interview at Ford on Monday." I grinned. "Remember you were thinking about a job change?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "Charlie, I hope this isn't a dream. I love you so much." On the drive home, I said, "Alice, I hope I'm not rushing, but in 2 weeks I'm visiting my folks in Kentucky. I'd love for you to come." She smiled. "I'd be happy to. Though my parents are pretty traditional, so we might not be sharing a bed." "I'm confident it'll work out," I said. Update 2. We set out for Kentucky. Along the way, Alice shared the latest rumor. Jake and Mia were planning to get married next month because Mia was visibly pregnant. "I think Mia believes she's marrying into money," I told Alice. "But it's not Jake who's rich, it's his parents. Jake lives lavishly, but it's mostly on credit." When we arrived at my parents' farmhouse, the place was huge, with plenty of bedrooms and bathrooms. My siblings still living there came out to greet us, followed by Mom and Dad. I introduced Alice, and they all welcomed her warmly. We spent a few hours chatting. Alice was looking at old photos, especially one of me in my football uniform from back in the day. Then I noticed tears in her eyes. "Alice, what's wrong? Are you okay?" She hesitated. "Do you remember that time when you were playing football at Green during an away game? After the match, you walked through the tunnel and saw 2 guys trying to drag a girl in a yellow sweater inside. You confronted them, threw one down, tackled the other, and warned them never to bother her again. Then you walked away." "Yeah, I remember, but I never told anyone about it." "How do you know?" "I was that girl," she whispered. "I never saw your face, just the number 67 on your jersey. I tried to find you afterward, but no one knew who you were. I found out your name was Charles, but that's all." She leaned in and kissed me. "There was something familiar about you the first time I met you, when Jake introduced us. That's the only good thing I can say about Jake. He introduced us. Mom had set up a bed for Alice and told me I could sleep in the basement where there was an extra bed." Around 1 a.m., Alice came down. We shared a quiet, intimate moment, though the situation was a bit complicated. She went back to her room about an hour later. On Saturday, we visited Alice's family. I didn't know her parents were well off. They had a beautiful house. Alice had 2 younger sisters, both attractive and a few years younger than her. She introduced me as her boyfriend. I overheard Sandy, one of her sisters, telling Alice I looked handsome. We talked inside for a while. Her dad, Hank, asked about my job and background. He was protective of his little girl. Then Hank looked me in the eye. "Mr. Carter, I want to talk to you about marrying my daughter. I'm here to ask for your blessing." Alice looked surprised and teary-eyed. "We hadn't talked about this before." I told him, "Even though we haven't been together long, our love is strong, and we believe we can build a great life together in marriage." I really appreciated that Hank took the time to talk to me, even though he didn't have to. You should know by now that Alice follows her heart. I turned to Alice. "Do you love Charlie?" "Yes, Daddy, with all my heart," she said without hesitation. "Then you have my blessing, but on one condition. You 2 get married here in Kentucky so your mom and I can throw you a proper wedding. Oh, and we'll cover the costs." I surprised everyone when I pulled an engagement ring from my pocket, got down on one knee, and asked Alice to marry me. She said yes, kissed me, then ran to hug her dad and her mom, who was crying tears of joy. We all stood up and enjoyed a fantastic chicken dinner together. Later, back at my parents' house, we told the Carters we'd keep them updated on our plans. When we shared the news with Mom and Dad, they were thrilled. Many relatives who still lived nearby came over for a barbecue. Dad proudly took on the role of grill master while Mom prepared meat and sides inside. Alice offered to help in the kitchen. She said she loved cooking. All my relatives stopped by to greet me and meet Alice, the first woman I'd ever brought home to meet my family. They all agreed she was a keeper and encouraged me to make her happy. After a lively day of celebration, we said goodbye to everyone and promised to share the wedding date soon. Just before bed, Alice whispered that my mom had warned her about a small obstacle on the stairs. Turns out, she'd accidentally kicked a pair of shoes, and they tumbled down. Alice tried to apologize, But Mom reassured her, saying she'd been young once, too, and maybe Alice's lively spirit was why she ended up with so many kids. Alice came back downstairs, and we shared a quiet, intimate moment. We tried to keep it quiet, but, well, you know how that goes. She didn't go back upstairs until nearly 5 a.m. The next morning, Mom and Alice exchanged knowing smiles. We all enjoyed a hearty country breakfast before hugging everyone goodbye and heading home. On Monday, Alice had her interview with HR. By Tuesday, Mary called to tell her she got the job and could submit her 2 weeks' notice. Alice called me with the great news, though I was already in the loop. We decided to celebrate with dinner that night at my favorite country bar. At the restaurant, we both ordered steak dinners. Alice mentioned that Jake and Mia were on vacation that week, then heading to Las Vegas to get married. She said it was the best 2 weeks she'd had at the plant since she didn't have to deal with them. Everyone was sad to see her leave, but understood she was moving on to a better opportunity. Working at Ford was one of the highest-paying jobs around. Alice felt lucky to have nailed the interview and the offer. She earned it. She kept our dating and engagement secret from everyone. Before leaving, she left an anonymous note on Jake's desk telling him to consider a DNA test once the baby was born, given Mia's frequent lunches with her boss. The note ended with congratulations but wasn't signed. From the day she started at our workplace, Alice wore a radiant smile. Whenever guys asked her out, she proudly showed off her engagement ring and made it clear she was taken. They wisely didn't cross any lines. Alice told me Joan was helping plan the wedding. Joan was like a caring guardian. She had a married daughter and had become close friends with Alice. They shared expenses as roommates. I made a point to drop by a couple of times each week to help out. I asked Mom if she could make a guest list from our side. She took it a step further and bought the invitations herself, handling all the details. I gave her the wedding date, set for 4 months away. Alice told her mom the date, too. Her parents took charge of finding a church and a venue for the reception. Her mom offered to send out invitations on their side. With her dad's business connections, she had plenty of contacts. Though I was anxious, I was actually doing the least. I asked some coworkers if they'd attend the wedding and was surprised how many said yes. Thanks to Joan's retail connections, she arranged for a dressmaker for Alice's gown. Joan and her daughter would both attend. Alice's mom, Sophie, called to say she'd secured a caterer but needed a headcount closer to the date. She also said her husband, Hank, had booked a talented band. It felt like everything was falling into place. I asked Alice if she thought we were going overboard. "This grand wedding is totally my parents' vision," she said. "They've dreamed of this since we were kids. Trust me, my sisters will have lavish weddings, too." I asked, "Why didn't you ever tell me you came from a wealthy background?" "I kept it hidden because I wanted you to like me for me," she said. "Only Joan knows. Not even Jake. Does it change anything for you?" "No. I like you for who you are. If you want, I'm happy to sign a prenup." "Don't worry about a prenup," she smiled. "I believe we'll be together forever. I don't have much wealth now, maybe inheritance someday, but I'll have a loving husband." Alice planned her wedding party lineup. Her dad would walk her down the aisle. Her older sister would be maid of honor, and her younger sister a bridesmaid. She invited my 2 married sisters as bridesmaids, too. My brothers-in-law would be groomsmen, and my single brothers paired with her sisters. My younger brother would be best man. My niece and nephew would be flower girl and ring bearer. Everyone gladly accepted. It truly became a family affair. Alice thrived at her new job and was well-liked by colleagues. A small problem arose. Since she'd only worked 4 months, she hadn't earned vacation days. We brainstormed and thought about leaving Friday night, marrying Saturday, and returning Sunday. It would be hectic but doable. 2 weeks before the wedding, the plant manager called me into his office. We had a good relationship, and he said he planned to attend the wedding. "Hey, Charlie, I heard you're juggling some timing issues with the wedding, leaving Friday, tying the knot Saturday, back Sunday. Is that right?" "Yeah, Mark. That's the plan." "Alice doesn't have vacation days left?" "No. Tell her we're granting her personal time off from Thursday through the next week." "Also," he added, "I've got 2 tickets for a 4-day honeymoon cruise as a gift." I thanked Mark and shook his hand. I met Alice in her office to tell her the news. We went out for lunch. "Alice, what's up?" "Charlie, what's this?" Mark called. "He said you're getting time off from Thursday through the next week. No rush getting there or back." He also gave us 2 tickets for a honeymoon cruise. I put the tickets on the table. Alice started tearing up. Everything was ready. We could leave Thursday, which made things easier. Rehearsal and dinner were Friday. I asked Dad if he needed money. He said he'd saved the money I'd sent since the wedding announcement. I really respected that man. After dinner, I kissed Alice and told her I'd see her tomorrow. Alice told her mom the number of guests coming, both for the wedding and reception, but didn't tell me because she knew I was nervous. I knew my whole family, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, would be there. I heard motels in both counties had been booked for months. I hoped our guests found a place to stay. Saturday morning, ready for the big day. I woke up that morning and Mom insisted I eat breakfast. She said I couldn't go through the whole day on an empty, anxious stomach. During breakfast, Mom mentioned she'd met the Carters and found them to be really friendly people who thought highly of me. Afterward, I took a long shower and shaved. I got dressed in my white tuxedo to match Alice's dress. My 4 brothers, all part of the wedding party, wore black tuxedos. It was time to head to the church, which was just 20 miles away in the neighboring county. The church was quite large. My brother said it could hold over 600 guests. As people arrived, my brothers and I helped them find seats. They said I didn't have to, but I insisted on helping however I could. Joan and her daughter showed up, and I guided them to sit with Alice's family. I spotted relatives I hadn't seen in years, and even some coworkers at the event. My boss, Mark, and his wife had flown in for the occasion. Then I was told to go to the front because Alice's limousine had arrived, and I wasn't supposed to see her before the ceremony. I stopped to chat with my parents briefly. Soft music played on the organ, then an announcement asked guests to take their seats as the wedding was about to begin. Every wedding has its unique moments. I stood beside the minister at the front. First down the aisle was Sandy, escorted by my brother. They made a great-looking pair. Next came Marie, walking with my other single brother. Then my married brothers walked down with their wives. One of my nephews came down as ring bearer. I held the actual wedding ring in my pocket. 2 men rolled out a white cloth, and my niece walked down the aisle, scattering rose petals. The music shifted to the wedding march. Alice appeared, walking down the aisle with her proud father. She looked like an angel, so beautiful I felt tears streaming down my face. "Who gives this woman to this man?" the minister asked. Her mother said, "I do." Her father replied, "I do." We exchanged vows. I placed the ring on her finger. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for, the go-ahead to kiss my bride. I did. "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Charles Jones." Everyone stood and cheered. Outside the church, we stood with the wedding party, thanking everyone who attended. It took more than 30 minutes for the church to clear. Guests headed to the rented hall for the reception. There were drinks and appetizers, and a band was playing. Not many were dancing yet. As we entered, the whole crowd stood and cheered for us. We took our seats. Mr. Carter said a few words, then announced the food was ready. Serving tables were set up on both sides for quick service. Alice and I were served first, but probably finished last, since we kept pausing to kiss every 10 seconds. Some tables were pushed back to make room for dancing. Alice and I were the first to hit the dance floor, followed by the wedding party, then everyone joined in. The reception went on solidly for 4 hours. Some guests even grabbed seconds from the buffet. It truly was an unforgettable night. Epilogue. Our honeymoon cruise was amazing. I was glad I brought my truck to the wedding. I rented a small U-Haul to haul all the gifts home. When we got back, we started looking for a new house. Eventually, we found a nice 3-bedroom place with a hot tub. We spent a few weeks at my small apartment, but Alice felt we needed more space. We decided to leave the gifts at my parents' house since we wouldn't be living there. I checked that Alice could manage on her own, and she assured me she had no financial troubles. She just enjoyed taking care of Joan, but now we shared that responsibility. Every evening, we worked on thank you cards. I think we're nearly done. We also started having lunch together at work about 3 times a week. It's been 3 months since the wedding, and everything's going great. We haven't had any arguments. We talk through and resolve whatever comes up. They say communication is key, and we really live by that. Alice mentioned one of her friends from another workplace called her with some news. Apparently, Jake was in serious financial trouble, drowning in debt. There was also a rumor someone told Jake to get a DNA test when Mia had the baby. No one was sure where that came from. A few weeks later, Alice got a call about more news. Jake had taken the DNA test, and it showed he wasn't the father. Isn't that wild? Thanks for reading my story. By the way, the part about the country music? Totally true. I actually saw it on PBS. The end.